بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to our course of Risalat al-Jamia. In this preliminary lecture to the Risalat al-Jamia course, we will look at a basic overview of the life and works of Imam Shafi'i, the founder of the Shafi'i madhab, radiyallahu anhu. In our more advanced courses of Shafi'i fiqh, we will cover his biography and the madhab in general in much more detail. So let's start with the lineage of Imam Shafi'i. His full name is Muhammad bin Idris bin Abbas bin Uthman bin Shafi'i. Imam Shafi'i's lineage traces itself back to the prophetic household, belonging to the Muttalibi line of Quraysh, the other most important line being the Hashimi clan, of which the Prophet ﷺ was born into. As for Imam Shafi'i's mother, she was from the Azadiya tribe of Yemen, of whom the Prophet ﷺ said, Al-Azadu judhumatul Arab. The people of Azad are the original Arabs. Imam Shafi'i was born in the year 150 Hijri, 767 Common Era, in Gaza, Palestine. This is the same year that Abu Hanifa passed away, radiyallahu anhu. It's narrated that during her pregnancy, his mother became conscious of a light emanating from her. First it reached to Egypt and covered its lands, and then the light spread to all other countries and cities of the world. Upon this experience, his mother consulted the scholars who interpret visions, and they informed her that a son would be born to her whose knowledge, wisdom and intellect will first reach Egypt and then spread through the rest of the lands of the world. This narration is documented in various books, including Tarikh al-Baghdadi and by Imam Zahabi in the Biography of the Noble Ones. Now, despite his noble lineage and connections, Imam Shafi'i was born into harsh poverty. His father Idris passed away when Imam Shafi'i was 2 years old. Because of this, his mother was concerned that the young child would lose his connection to his kinsmen of the prophetic household on his father's side. So she decided to relocate to Mecca with the child. As a boy, Imam Shafi'i was an avid archer. He became so good at it that he would never miss the mark. He also developed a strong love for the Arabic language. This led him to live with the tribe of Huzayl, who were known for the beauty and purity of their language, and he stayed with them for many years. Ever since he was a young child, Imam Shafi'i had a prodigious memory. By the age of 7 he had memorized the Quran, and by the age of 10 he had memorized the Muwatta of Imam Malik. We mentioned that the young Shafi'i was steeped in the language and poetry of the Arabs. Once, while he was in Mecca, he was riding his donkey and reciting some lines of poetry, when someone lightly whipped him from behind. He turned around and a man said to him, "Someone of your standing loses his dignity by carrying on like that. Where are you with fiqh?" This unsettled the young Shafi'i, and he decided to attend the lessons of Sheikh Zinji, the Mufti of Mecca. And this was actually a pivotal point in the young Imam's life, because it heralded the beginning of the Imam's fiqh studies. By the age of 15, Sheikh Zinji authorized Shafi'i to give fatwa, formal legal opinion. At around this time, Imam Shafi'i travelled to Medina to study under Imam Malik. This was an era where the science of hadith was flourishing, and Malik's Muwatta was the famous book of the day. Imam Malik was deeply impressed with the young man, and he would often love to hear him recite the Muwatta back to him. Imam Malik was later quoted to have said, "No one more brilliant than Muhammad ever came to me as a student." Imam Shafi'i then moved to Yemen, where he took on a job as a governor and judge in the north of Yemen. During this period, he also sought out books on firasa. Firasa is an intuitive science not too dissimilar to physiognomy, but perhaps more profound and insightful than the latter. Now, there's a famous incident that took place with Imam Shafi'i on his return to Mecca. As he was journeying and passing through a town, a man asked him to alight and invited him to his house, which was the norm to do so to travellers in those days. Imam Shafi'i read the man's countenance and had some initial misgivings about him, but upon seeing the man's general hospitality and friendliness, this made Imam Shafi'i question his own initial misgivings. The man continued to lavish Imam Shafi'i with food and perfume and animal fodder for his animal, and gave him a bed and comfortable bedding, and it was very comfortable. And as the Imam lay there at night, he said to himself, what am I to do with this knowledge that I've gained? Because I'm seeing in this man the very same attributes and descriptions that I find in my book, and they're all wrong. The next morning, the Imam gathered all his items ready to leave and said to the man, if you ever pass by Mecca, be sure to stop by. And at this, the Imam held on to the reins of the horse and said to Imam Shafi'i, do I owe you anything? To which the Imam replied, no. The man said, well, I bought food for this much, and condiments for this much, and perfume and animal fodder for this much, and likewise your bed and blankets, etc., for this much. And then he said to the man, and you owe me rent as well, because you took the space while things were constricted for me and I was uncomfortable. So the Imam was very happy, and he felt a sense of rapture at the thought that what he had learned in Firasa and the knowledge he had gained was true. So having paid the man, he went on his way. Now, as is often the case with genuine and sincere scholars in government positions, political problems occurred in Yemen. Falsely charged for treason against the caliph by a disgruntled governor, the Imam was summoned to Baghdad with other suspected enemies of the state. All of them were beheaded except the Imam, who impressed the caliph so much that he set him free, the caliph being Harun al-Rashid at the time. It was in this caliph's court that Shafi was noticed by another great scholar of the time, Imam Muhammad al-Shaybani, the famed student of Abu Hanifa, and he was greatly impressed by the young scholar and instantly recognized his immense caliber. Again, this was to be another pivotal point in the Imam's life. As Shafi stayed in Iraq, and he and Imam Shaybani enjoyed a very close relationship. Imam Shaybani later said, the door of fiqh was closed to the people, and Allah opened it because of a Shafi'i. During his time in Baghdad, Shafi'i would regularly visit the grave of Abu Hanifa, and his deep reverence for Imam Abu Hanifa is well documented. He once said, people are all children of Abu Hanifa in fiqh. Now, having studied and debated both the traditional and hadith-based approach to fiqh from the Hijaz, Mecca and Medina, as well as the rational, logical approach common in Iraq, the beginnings of a new concept was forming in the Imam's mind. It was here that Imam Shafi started developing systematic principles for deriving rulings from the sources, the Quran and Sunnah. His unsurpassed command of the language, his mastery of hadith, his mastery of the branches of fiqh and tafsir, and his unparalleled power of reasoning, further enhanced through his experiences in Baghdad, led to the beginnings of a new coherent legal methodology being born. A science was being born in the Imam's mind, a science which would later be called Usul al-Fiqh, the principles of fiqh. Now, upon returning to Mecca, the Imam started teaching in the holy sanctuary, but in 195 Hijri, once again Imam Shafi travelled to Baghdad. Despite Imam Muhammad al-Shaybani having passed away in 188 Hijri, Baghdad offered Shafi'i the arena to test out his new theories through rigorous and critical debate, and he quickly won over many scholars from both the people of Hadith and the people of Analogy. It was here that the first version of his monumental work, Ar-Risala, was born. Yet Ar-Risala was not the only work Imam Shafi produced at the time. Given his newly forming methodology, the Shafi Madhab was also born, and the first book written in the Madhab was Al-Hujjah. This book constituted Al-Madhab Al-Qadim, the old Madhab. It was at this time in Iraq the relationship between Imam Shafi'i and Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal developed. Imam Ahmad, predominantly a hadith scholar, was a student of Shafi and would often miss hadith classes to hear the young Imam speak. Once, when reprimanded over his not attending a regular circle of hadith, Imam Ahmad replied, "If you miss a hadith with a higher chain of narration, you can find it with a lower chain of narration elsewhere. However, if you miss this youth's intellect and reasoning, I fear you will not find the likes of it again until the day of judgment. I have never seen anyone more versed in the book of Allah than this youth from Quraysh." Speaking of the immense contribution of Shafi'i to the science of hadith, Imam Ahmad said, "Not one of the scholars of hadith ever touched an inkwell nor a pen except that he owed a huge debt to Shafi'i." Baghdad started to become a dangerous place for traditional Sunni scholars in these years due to the Mu'tazilite-led inquisition, the Mihna. This tribulation centered around the issue of whether the Quran was created or not. Discussing the escalating situation with Imam Ahmad, Imam Shafi'i decided to leave for Egypt, for if two great Imams stayed in Iraq, there was a chance that both may be killed, and therefore their knowledge lost. So in 199 Hijri, Imam Shafi'i moved to Egypt. In Egypt, people flocked to the Imam to learn and benefit from him, and the madhab flourished. It was here in Cairo that the Imam refined and rewrote a Risala, of which it is said he revised and reread 400 times, finally saying, "Only Allah's book is perfect and free from error." Given his now thorough and comprehensive methodology, he formulated and wrote down a new madhab, culminating in the work Al-Umm, the mother of all books, or the mother of all fiqh books. And all of this in the space of only 4 years. Al-Umm and the subsequent development and work of the later Shafi scholars are what comprise as Al-Madhab Al-Jadid, the new madhab, and what we follow today. I'd like to just mention a few qualities of Imam Shafi'i about his character and appearance. The Imam was described as very handsome and well built. A note of caution here, you'll find in many books that describe their Imams or the biography of the Imams that they say that the Imam was very handsome or the most handsomest person in the world. We have to take these descriptions with a pinch of salt. However, in this case, and being a Shafi, I insist that this was the case. In character, he was extremely modest. He once himself narrated that when he was walking in the marketplace and happened to notice the anklet of a woman passing by, he almost fainted and lost half of his memory. Such was the modesty and shyness of the Imam. His presence was described as awe-inspiring and intense. In the year 204 Hijri, Imam Shafi fell sick. His students visited him and once asked him how he was feeling, to which the Imam replied, "I am journeying from this world and departing from my brothers, drinking from the cup of death, and upon Allah exalted is His remembrance, arriving. And no, by Allah, I do not know if my soul is travelling towards paradise or the fire." Upon this the Imam wept. On the night of Jum'ah, the month of Sha'ban, in the year 204 Hijri, and at the age of 54, Imam Shafi passed on from this world to his Lord. He was buried on the day of Jum'ah, and his resting place can be found in the mosque named after him in Cairo. We could talk for hours on the life and travels of Imam Shafi, and what we've mentioned here is just a very brief sketch of his great and illustrious life. If Allah grants us the tawfiq to progress to a further book, we'll cover the life of this great Imam in more detail, inshallah. Finally, we ask Allah to have mercy on Imam Shafi, to make him of those who enter paradise without account, and to reward him for every letter we read and every act we do when learning and practicing this madhab. And tawfiq is from Allah alone.